Welcome back to another weekly edition of Down to the Wire, again alongside Nolan, Thode, my NHL analyst. And to start here, we're going to get right into the news of, the passing of Walter Gretzky, who was the father of, basically Canada and hockey. But not only that, but the father of the great one, Wayne Gretzky. And to hear that news Wednesday night, actually, it was near the end of the second period of the Toronto Maple Leafs and Vancouver Canucks game. To hear that news is so sad. And, he died at age 82 because of Parkinson's. And it's just, the worst news you want to receive.
No, exactly. I mean, he was, the hockey dad for Wayne Gretzky, the greatest player of all time, but, just the ultimate hockey dad in general. Like you said, the hockey dad of Canada. He was a hockey dad who, dedicated his life to the game. He contributed, two NHL players. The other brother didn't do as much as Wayne did. However, he raised his sons well. And even, when they retired after their careers, he just kept, giving back to the community. I had an experience, I actually got to meet him, luckily, before his passing. Just a great guy, not a bad bone in his body. And, just someone that, people should be able to look up to as just, a model citizen.
And that is a common theme, whether it's throughout you hear in the news coverage or just, with your buddies. It seemed as though everyone knew who Walter Gretzky was. Everyone had a story to share. I know personally, he came to Charles R. Baudouin, our elementary school here, Burlington, both of us, Nolan and I. I don't remember too much of that. But, Nolan, if you have a separate story or anything, it was so unexpected in a way. And, it hit the hockey community so hard.
Yeah, it just adds to the list of, within this last year, how bad things have really been in the world. I do remember him coming to our school, and he was there to promote some sort of charity. And I remember all the questions he got, were about Wayne and hockey. Bunch of elementary school kids didn't care too much about the charity, but, he tried his best to answer every question, and give a good answer. So, great guy and nothing bad to say.
In the second passing of Chris Schultz there Thursday morning, actually, he was from our community here in Burlington, Ontario. And, he played for America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, before going to the CFL and playing for the Toronto Argonauts. And, as a fan of the CFL, I know you are as well, it sucks. We didn't get a CFL season in 2020. And I'm hoping that with the news of more vaccinations on the way here in Canada, that, we will see a CFL season in 2021. But, it sucks to see a CFL and TSN anchor gone so soon. He died at the age of 61 because of a heart attack. Yeah. And, I actually had the goal of interviewing him, and because I know he's from Burlington, and I know, I love the CFL. I love how different it is from the NFL, and what I read from online about Chris Schultz is that he loved analyzing the game and he loved talking about it.
Yeah, it was just such an unfortunate, 24 hours. I go to bed thinking about Walter, and I wake up to the news of Chris Schultz. Just in general, terrible. For me personally, I met Walter, I said before, but Chris Schultz, I remember it was in grade 10, and I went out to lunch to the Tim Hortons by our school. And I just remember I looked across the store, and I see him sitting, in my high school, just in that area. And I looked at him and kind of waited for him to, look at me, and he looked at me, and I pointed at him and I said, "You wouldn't happen to be Chris Schultz, would you?" Just because he, just super recognizable, this big dude, abnormally large football player sitting in Tim Hortons. And him and I had a conversation just talking about the Ticats, for maybe 5-10 minutes. And he was just a great guy. So, super unfortunate, and just the sports world losing two big icons, in my opinion.
And that story goes to show just how close-knit the sports community is, because of how many players or analysts live in the same neighborhood as you. And, it goes to show that you never know who you're going to meet in public.
Yeah, no, seeing him on TV, seeing him on, CFL on TSN, classic, just one of the, top analysts, a guy you're going to listen to his opinion. But just seeing him in the Tim Hortons, it was just crazy. Just, he's just a part of society as much as we are. But, I was a little starstruck for me, but, great memory.
Moving on to our weekly news here, starting off with Monday, I believe, and as they've shown throughout the week, that Ottawa is certainly not a team to mess around with. We saw them come back down 5-1 against Toronto, but not only that, but I feel like Calgary is kind of light years better than them, and they can hang with teams at the top. We saw them beat Montreal 3 times now. They've shown great fight against the Leafs, the Habs, the Flames, for the structure of their team as a rebuilding team, so to speak.
Yeah, people didn't expect them to, make the playoffs, but people did expect them to be at the bottom of the standings. And, just the way things are, that they're kind of chilling there as well. However, I think, they're better than their record may show. Just, the games that they have been in, and the games that they do win, they just look like, a solid competitive team. Just a bunch of youth movement, giving, the youth all the time to play, the time on ice for all these, guys up and coming. Maybe if they were on another roster, they'd have to fight more for their minutes. But, it's just kind of working on the night where things click. Guys like Drake Batherson, Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, they can really make an impact offensively. And, they're an exciting team to watch.
You mentioned Drake Batherson there. Well, on Monday, actually, that was his first career multi-point game for Drake Batherson. And, I find that very interesting and fun to, acknowledge that there is a youth movement coming up in Ottawa.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really promising. They're going to be bad for maybe a couple more years. However, when you got talent like this who are, kind of proving themselves in the NHL, once this team starts to get a little bit more complete, the Senators, they might, the rebuild could be a good thing, and they're going to be coming out of it, being able to go back to, where they were in 2017.
Alex Nedeljkovic, the third goalie actually for Carolina, I thought he offered up solid goaltending as the Canes did beat the Panthers 3-2 in overtime on Monday night. During that game, 1.97 goals against average and a .957 save percentage. Especially from a third goalie, and actually that's the requirement for teams now. During the season, they have to carry 3 goalies. That's a solid performance because you don't see the net very much when you're doing first team reps because you're basically on the taxi squad for the whole season. And to have him beat a Florida Panthers team, which has proved to me that they are legit, that is, it seems like Carolina has good depth in goalie with Peter Mrazek, Jim Reimer, and now Alex Nedeljkovic, who's making a name for himself.
Yeah, Nedeljkovic, he, for the last couple of years has been within the system, solid in the AHL, kind of never really broke onto the scene too much. But fortunately for him, Peter Mrazek does go down with an injury earlier this season, and he's able to come in and, sort of have a split start. I think it'll be interesting between, Nedeljkovic and Reimer, when Mrazek eventually does come back, who becomes that, second goalie, or maybe they even split starts with Mrazek. This win against the Panthers, but he shut out the Tampa Bay Lightning a couple of weeks ago. He's been super solid, and, it's just exciting to see. And interesting enough, he was on waivers earlier this season. So a lot of teams, a lot of GMs are probably, hitting their head against the table just that they didn't, take a gamble on him.
Well, waivers is actually an interesting point there because I'm seeing a lot of veterans or even, good young players, Anaheim in specific, that Adam Henrique was on waivers. I think because of his salary and what he's contributed to this year, that's a reason why teams passed up on him. But as well as Brendan Gooley, Caden Gooley's brother, Caden Gooley got drafted to the Montreal Canadiens. And I thought it would be hilarious if Montreal picked up Gooley from Anaheim. But it's just weird to see that, it's goalies going on waivers, players that can really make a difference in their lineup had they been claimed.
Yeah, I think maybe just GMs feel a little bit more secure with, all the quarantining rules and such when going to another team. I feel like, the waiver class that we've gotten this season has actually, had some actual talent versus, in a regular year. It's just the occasional scrub that gets sent there.
You mentioned shutouts as well by Nedeljkovic, if I'm not mistaken, which is a good point to build off of here because Thatcher Demko recorded his first career regular season shutout against the top tier Jets, who are second in the North Division right now, a 3-0 win. And that really goes to show you that, like I've been mentioning, Demko needs to play, an A to an A plus game, 9 times out of 10 if the Canucks want to get back into this race. And throughout the week, we've seen the Canucks rely heavily on Demko, and I think they're at the stage where they have to ride the hot hand essentially because their playoff lives are hanging by a thread.
Yeah, I think playoffs is going to be tough for the Canucks to squeak in. However, if you're looking at any positive for this season, it is, the fact that Demko has, kind of slowly but surely established himself as, pretty much an elite starter to this point. His numbers back it up. Maybe, a little more consistency is what fans are looking for. However, with Braden Holtby, I think, he's the one who's expendable. And I think Demko is the guy you're going to be looking to build off of on the back end for the future.
And it's interesting to think about because we could have Braden Holtby, the 2018 Stanley Cup champion, who looked phenomenal in Washington, be exposed to Seattle in the expansion draft this summer.
Yeah, and at that point, I think he'd only have 1 year left on his deal, so it'd be surprising to see, Seattle not taking a chance on him, given I'm not sure who else would be exposed by the Canucks.
I think one of the things that the Leafs are doing really well and that more teams should do is that they're doing a really good job of activating their D on the back end. We see Riley jumping in the rush. Justin Hall's jumping in the rush. They're contributing to the offense. They're creating offense not only for themselves, but for the line that's on the ice, for the whole team in general. And I think that especially like the Montreal Canadiens who have old legs, you could mention, Edmondson's, I think like 30, 33, Sherrod and Weber are around 35, 37, respectively. And, with the NHL being a young man's league, I think we're going to see more offensive defensemen in the future being activated to contribute to the offense.
Yeah, no, exactly. You point to the Leafs and I think, it's just, the results of their team. They kind of just have, an exciting offensively kind of like oriented focus. Now they've kind of structured their defense a little bit more. However, there's just so much talent on the ice that, when Morgan Riley and Justin Hall decide to jump up on the rush, they're just so dangerous. The Leafs, if you watch a full game, there's going to be 1 or 2 times where, for maybe even more than a minute, they're just controlling play in the offensive end. Doesn't even have to be on a power play. It could be 5-on-5 and it feels like the Leafs are on a power play. And a lot of that does contribute to their D being able to, step in there and, contribute as well.
As much as I hate the Toronto Maple Leafs, they are one of the more fun teams to watch because of their young core. They sucked for so long, so it's definitely not surprising to see them do well in a division that they should be dominating in. But they are just so fun to watch, especially with I think Edmonton's another team that's fun to watch.
No, yeah, both those teams that you mentioned are extremely fun to watch. McDavid, Matthews, Marner, Draisaitl, those will contribute. But, just overall, when a team kind of has those star players, the depth pieces want to be able to make their impact as well. Throughout the lineup, they're really fun teams to watch.
And, as we've seen on Monday night, actually, Mark Stone had 5 assists in a comeback win against the Minnesota Wild. And, I think that one theme that we're seeing throughout this season is not the COVID. That's not what I'm thinking. But I'm thinking, no lead is safe. You have to play a full 60 minutes. This is like playoff hockey before playoff hockey. We're seeing leads blown left, right, and center. I mean, look, the Colorado Avalanche, everyone's hyping them up. They just blew a lead to the Anaheim Ducks on Sunday night, I'm pretty sure, or Saturday night, whatever it was. The Anaheim Ducks are bums. They're garbage. They were on an 8-game losing streak before that win. They could have put them to 9. And we're not talking about Dallas Eakins getting fired or whatever. Like, this season is insane. And I'm actually kind of, I'm always tuning into the late games. So I'm kind of fired up that every league, no league is safe.
Yeah, no, it has been a great season in just terms of the gameplay. And I think a lot of that is contributed to the fact that the divisions, you're not playing every single team in the NHL. You're only playing, 6 or 7 other teams, and just the competitive nature, it really is showing on the ice. And, a full 60 minutes, like you said, every team needs to be able to play it. And as you mentioned with Mark Stone, 5 assists, that Vegas team, they can start off slow. Just, they do play a good 60 minutes though. And it's going to be hard to beat that team, late in the season when things matter more.
On Tuesday, Sidney Crosby actually landed on the COVID-19 list. This doesn't mean he contracted the virus. It means he could have been around it, could have been close contact with someone who tested positive. Nonetheless, that's just another superstar that landed on the league. Others, such as, Ovi and McDavid. But, that didn't really matter because the Pens won 5-2 against their rivals, the Philadelphia Flyers. And I think this Pittsburgh team is looking really good. They have really good depth scoring. Their defense, is kind of mediocre, but I think they've been playing really well.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh's the kind of team where, even though they do have this kind of core leadership group, with Crosby, Malkin, Letang, even when one of those pieces goes down, the rest of the guys are able to step up. They're kind of showing their age. Obviously, this wasn't an injury with, just him going because of protocols. But yeah, it's just kind of next man up, and, they're able to step up in his presence and get a big divisional win.
Carey Price starting against Ottawa, when I first, read that to you, it doesn't sound anything of importance, but this was actually the first important decision for Dominique Ducharme since they had time off between Saturdays, and then this was on Tuesday. So I think, this was kind of a given for Ducharme because I don't think he wants to go on record for essentially benching Price. He may have, you said to the media like, oh yeah, I'm going to go with Allen because of recent games like analytics and whatever and whatnot. But, I don't think Ducharme would want the stress from the Montreal media to say like, oh yeah, I'm starting Allen over Price. As a Habs fan, I think Price 9 times out of 10 gives the team the best chance to win. I know that, advanced analytics and stats wise, Price is having a bad year. And yes, that's true. And Allen is outplaying Carey Price, but this is Carey Price. I mean, I explained last episode that the reason the NHL and NHLPA didn't go to a best of 3 series in the playing round was because of Carey Price. So, the name still holds a lot of weight. And actually, going off that pun, that is a pun because Stephen Waite got fired that night after Price stopped 26 out of 27 shots, which is definitely an odd firing. I want to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I think, just in terms of Price, you and I both talked last week about how, even though the numbers may not be there this season, he still is, night in, night out, just a solid goalie, one of the best in the league. And he kind of proved it here. We talked earlier in this episode about how Ottawa is exciting. However, they're sort of team if you needed a confidence boost. The Oilers played Stuart Skinner, his first career win against Ottawa earlier this year. So the goaltending might be irrelevant. However, Price looks super solid in that game. And it was interesting to see the goalie coach get fired. I'm not too sure about, the coaching staff and, any locker room issues with that. But, it was an interesting move.
I gotta agree with you because usually you don't get fired after a win, let alone your goalie only allowed 1 goal. I mean, the final score I think was 3-1 or 2-1, something like that. The replacement for Stephen Waite is Sean Burke, who actually was an NHL goalie. And actually, as we saw on Saturday, Price got rid of the red pads, and you do not know how much this makes me happy. Like I am super pumped that Price got rid of those, solid red pads because I really think that was a main problem. And as we saw, the Jets only scored 1 goal. The Habs scored 7. So is it a coincidence? We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. You were going off last week about the red pads, and he went out there and proved you right. Maybe he watched the Down to the Wire episode.
Joy Dacord, Pagcast guest, always got to feature him in the news. He made his second career start that night, so it was Dacord versus Price, and I think he played very solid. He was tracking the puck well. He had great positioning in the crease, and to only allow I guess 2 goals. I don't know if one was an empty net, or could have been 3 in your second career game against, a person like Price. Like, that must give you a huge confidence boost.
No, exactly. And I think, in terms of goalies, especially the young ones breaking onto the scene, I think confidence is a big thing. If they come in, their first couple games get shelled, that could really, set them back and potentially stop them from, ever playing in the NHL again. So I think, even though maybe he's not winning these games, I think he's looking, super solid and slowly gaining the confidence to, be, starting more than 2 games. And I think, just even though he was a Pagcast guest, it's just nice to see regardless.
And really the only bright spot for the Sabres thus far in the season is Dylan Cousins having his first career NHL fight. That's really been the talk of the town, because that has been a tire fire for 10 years now. And, really it's good to see that Cousins can chuck him. But, it's weird to see, because I thought that Cousins fighting would kind of pump up the team, give them a little more energy. But I was wrong, as the Sabres didn't win that game, and they haven't won since.
Yeah, the workhorse from Whitehorse is what the, Sabres fan has coined him. And, just contributing, everywhere on the ice. He's been able to, get a couple points, now getting in a fight. I feel like he's just, growing into, potentially a young star in this league, which could be a super solid piece for the Sabres moving forward.
And, I think one of the problems with Dallas is still their goals for per game. I'm just looking at it right now as we're speaking, and, their goals for per game, they're 2.69. And, for them to make the playoffs, I think they're last or second last in the Central Division. It seems like Detroit and Dallas are fighting for the bottom there. They have to be hovering around 3 goals for per game, or above 3, because right now in the Central, I think the cutoff right there is 27 points, and I think Dallas is at 17 or 18. So they need to get hot, and they need to get hot quickly. And in a condensed schedule, that can do wonders for you. If you go on a quick 5-game winning streak, or a quick 6-game, win 5 of 6, win 4 or 5, and you score, I guess more than 3 goals per game, that can do wonders for your team.
Yeah, like I'll tie this to the Penguins, how when they have a guy go down, they're able to step up. I feel like Dallas, isn't able to do that. They've been missing Seguin all season, and it's just kind of really showed, a lack of intensity on offense, just a lack of speed. I always talk about Dallas isn't the fastest team, but it's just really tough for them to generate anything.
As expected, Jarmo Kekalainen gave the vote of confidence to John Tortorella. Nothing really too surprising there. That's kind of just the same old, same old. I feel like that's kind of like the standard around the league, is when a coach comes under fire, when there's rumors surrounding that coach, the GM just steps in and be like, yeah, calm down, media. The coach has got it. I trust the coach. Kind of just the same thing that we saw from Vancouver.
Yeah, no, nice to see, just the confidence between GM and coach. Really helps everyone in the organization know when they're really not at a state of panic there in Columbus.
And, on Wednesday, I put this down in the notes, but I think that age is a myth. And we look at Mike Smith, who's, 38 years old. You think that his play would decline, but he's 6-2 or 6-1 on the season, right?
Either 7-2 or 7-1. I'm not sure if he got the loss for one of those games, but he did win on Saturday again against the Flames. So
yeah, exactly. And he's having a great season so far. He came off the IR to start the season, so you would kind of think that there would be the scare of having a setback, but clearly not. He has been playing like the Arizona Mike Smith.
Yeah, he had some injury issue at the start of the season. They threw him on the long-term injury reserve, and Koskinen made every single start except one. And it's just kind of been the exact opposite since he's come back. He's been able to start a lot, give Koskinen, a much-needed break. And, I think they're going to start shifting more towards, a tandem just in every other start. But Smith's just been hot right now, and we're giving him the keys to the net most and every night.
Fleury is having a Vezina Trophy season at age 36. So clearly, age for goalies is a myth. And, this could be one bad season. I'll relate it back to Carey Price, 33 years old. Who knows what he'll be like in 3 years or even in 4 years. It's just interesting to see that these goalies who are so old, who we grew up with, are having great success.
Yeah, no, Marc-Andre Fleury, the goalies, they're playing a position where they're required, even though they're not moving, just along the ice much, they gotta be super flexible. And I think it helps keep them in shape. And at age 36, they're able to keep doing, what they do best.
And I'm thinking that this could be just a random thought, but I think that Mike Smith's success could be related to how he has Dave Tippett as a coach again. And, if you remember, Dave Tippett was the coach back in Arizona when Mike Smith was there.
Yeah, I think, Mike Smith, Arizona, most fans would point that to be the prime of his career. He was a super solid goalie then, and, David Tippett was the coach. So, clearly, they have some sort of chemistry and just a level of trust between the two, and it's nice to see.
Zdeno Chara returned to Boston for the first time since signing with the Capitals in the offseason. And I know for me, it's definitely a weird sighting not seeing Chara in the Spoke to Be uniform anymore, because he's been such a mainstay there. He did play for the Islanders in Ottawa, before reaching Boston, but Boston is where he's most known for. And it sucks to see that fans weren't in the stands at the time, but I know that I think TD Garden has fans now. But anyway, hopefully when arenas more open up, there could be a proper tribute that's given to these players that return after being with one team for so long.
Exactly. Just especially with us growing up, we only can really picture Zdeno Chara as a Bruin. He was the captain when they won the cup in 2011, and he's been a part of their team through their cup runs in 13 and 2019. And last year, if you had told me that, Chara wouldn't have been playing for Boston this season, I would have thought, he retired. But it was a shock when he did ultimately go to Washington, and it was just weird to see him playing against the Bees.
The Toronto Maple Leafs kept the Edmonton Stars, such as McDavid and Draisaitl, for pointless for 3 straight games there as they completed the sweep. And that's a tough challenge to do. It's tough to keep McDavid and Draisaitl off the score sheet for one game, but let alone 3 straight games.
Yeah, I think, every team has a tough stretch. And I think, the Oilers just had it at a bad time playing against Toronto. Living in Toronto, it sucks because it's all I saw for a couple days on my social media is, how bad the Oilers were. I wasn't freaking out too much. Obviously, it sucks to, not be able to score for 3 games. But I do think, maybe at this point in the season, it doesn't kill our record enough where, now we're looking on the outside in. We're still in the playoffs. And I think, that 3-game stretch is going to be, something that we look at, for the rest of the season, kind of to point to as like a low point and be able to build off of it. Because I think there was a lot of frustration from the guys. And, we'll get to it on Saturday. But I really like the game that the Oilers played on Saturday.
Each of Toronto's goalies picked up a win series: Frederik Andersen, Jack Campbell, and Michael Hutchinson. And I really thought that I would see McDavid torch Hutchinson, but I was wrong. I didn't expect Hutchinson to he had a shutout, I believe. But just what a crazy performance that was. And actually, thank God for Hutch, because I was playing McDavid in fantasy last week. So that would have been a yikes, to say the least.
Yeah, Hutchinson's been actually kind of strange this year, and it just points to the fact that, goalies are super unpredictable no matter what age or, how long they've been in the league or how elite they are. Any given night, someone can get shelled. Any given night, someone can get a shutout. It's a crazy league. Zach
Parise got scratched for wanting to give Marcus Foligno the hat trick on Tuesday. And, the gist of the situation basically was that, Minnesota choked the lead, and Parise, Foligno never had a hat trick. So, they were talking on the bench, and, Parise wanted the kid, to have a hat trick. Mm-hmm. And, they didn't get the hat trick. Next thing you know, it's in the back of your net, tie game. Then, you guys lose in overtime. Yeah. So this was actually the first time that Zach Parise was scratched with Minnesota. And he's actually been Parise only scratched twice in his career, once with New Jersey and once with Minnesota.
Yeah, just he was trying to make the right play by giving, Foligno the hat trick, just being a good guy. However, when it comes back to bite you, I think, both the Wild management and Parise realized that, it wasn't a good look. And, he took it very well. He went out to the media and kind of just owned up to, everything that happened and kind of, took his healthy scratching as maybe a little bit of a lesson learned, and he'll move forward from it.
On Thursday, Tampa Bay announced that they are allowing fans March 13th. And, that's really good to see another arena open up its doors for fans to come in. And actually, the Raptors announced today that they're going to start allowing fans. So, it's good to see that more than half of the league is allowing fans in the stands.
Yeah, it is really nice. Just, a slow progression to, where we once were. And I think it's just a positive thing for the league.
Joe Thornton and Jason Spezza are both making minimum salary, that's $700K, and they're actually offering superb hockey skills and IQ. I think the vision on Thornton is amazing. We go back to his San Jose days. He's making plays that I never thought he would at the age of 41. This goes back to my point about how age is a myth. Jason Spezza, who's like 39, he's, fake clapping it, sniping it on Mike Smith. Like, who are these people?
Yeah, no, it's so interesting to see. I think, with age, not maybe with goalies, but just players, I think what they lose as they get older is, their speed and just kind of, their health starts to fade away as well. However, these were once, superstar players, I think, Joe Thornton and Jason Spezza both. And I think, on any given night, they can kind of just, turn back the clock 10 or 15 years and, make the play that reminds the older fans of, their younger days.
One of the best goalies in the game currently is Andrei Vasilevskiy, and he set the record for the longest shutout streak in Tampa Bay Lightning history. He passed John Graham's streak of 202 minutes and 46 seconds from the 2005-2006 season. And, I thought we see Vasilevskiy make save after save, and it's good that he got the ring he deserved in the 2020 playoffs there. It sucks the way that happened, but, Vasilevskiy is such a star to watch. I mean, Tampa Bay is so stacked on their forward core, on their defense. Their goalie can win night in, night out. It can steal games. I can't see how they get eliminated from the playoffs. They could go back to back. Not only that, they're doing this without Kucherov. So imagine this times with Kucherov. Like that's insane.
Exactly. I think the Tampa Bay Lightning are just super impressive, and all the credit, in my opinion, not all the credit, but just Vasilevskiy, I think, this year especially is starting to get the respect he actually deserves. Being a goalie on a stacked team, fans are just going to point to the fact that, you have a lot to play behind. But I do think, this season, Vasilevskiy has been incredible and, proving himself as an elite goalie where some casual fans would still think that he's just, getting these numbers as a result of playing for the Lightning. But whereas I do think Vasilevskiy is one of the top attendees in the league.
So it was 228 plus minutes since Vasilevskiy allowed a goal, and it was actually 11 periods. That translates into 11 periods. And I mentioned that Fleury's having a Vezina season, and right there with him is Vasilevskiy. However, Vasilevskiy leads the league in wins, and Fleury only leads the league in goals against average and save percentage. And I think, and shutouts. I should mention that Fleury leads the league in shutouts. So it's 3-1 essentially. So take that for what you wish. For what you believe in, but I think Fleury deserves the Vezina in my opinion.
Yeah, I think, both of them are great candidates, and say what you will, but, as the rest of the season sort of plays out, I think we'll have a more clear picture for who's going to get the award.
The Pittsburgh Penguins social media team did a big mistake, big oopsie, as they were caught photoshopping masks onto fans. This was trending on Twitter, and, I had to go through a news article to really see the difference, but, it's crazy to me that Pittsburgh allowed fans this week, and they had to post something like this, photoshopping masks onto fans. It's not a good look for the franchise. Definitely paints a black eye. Hopefully, people wear their mask to games, wear it properly, just follow all the protocols.
No, exactly. Just not a great week in terms of, everything COVID related for the Penguins. First, their captain going on the reserve list, and then, this incident, they just kind of got to get their stuff together, and just, yeah, like you said, not a good look for them.
first career hat trick for Dylan Dube in a 7-1 win over Ottawa. I mentioned that, with Ottawa, they're a young team. You mentioned that. I mentioned, Joey Daccord, definitely exciting part of the future for them. And, Daccord did come in that game in relief of Matt Murray. And, it's good for Dube to finally get the first career hat trick out of the way. It's coming for a lot of players on that Flames team. And I think that Dube it was going to happen this season, in my opinion.
Yeah, Dylan Dube has been, a young, exciting player, captain of Team Canada, I believe, a couple seasons ago in the World Juniors. So, you and I are both used to seeing him, and it's just nice to see him do at an NHL level. The Flames and the Senators, just such a strange series, It was kind of like, they had a close game last night, ended up going to a shootout. But other than that, it was a lot of, 4-1, 7-1, just these crazy blowout games, and it was going both ways.
The Leafs started to look human-like, at least over the weekend, as they played the Vancouver Canucks. On Thursday, Jake Virtanen had a multi-goal game. He kind of sniped one far side. It was along the goal line, and that was a crazy goal. But Thatcher Demko, another terrific performance against the top team in the North Division. And, he's really, like you mentioned, cementing his early career, to be the Canucks' #1 starter.
Yeah, and they're giving him confidence. He's been starting the bulk of games over the last month, and he's been doing, good things. The Canucks earlier this season, when they did play the Leafs, that was probably the low point of their season. They got kind of blown out 2 games in a row, Spezza getting a hat trick. So I think, for Canucks fans and for the team, it's great to get this win.
On Friday, Brent Seabrook, another player who we grew up with, retired due to injury. He's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, a core member of that Blackhawks dynasty. And it sucks that this is the way to go out. I would have liked to see Seabs play another game before he retired, for sure.
Yeah, and it was kind of sudden. Last year going into the bubble, he announced that, he wasn't going to play for the Blackhawks in the bubble in the playoffs. And, this season he hasn't been able to get on the ice, and, now it's coming out that it's due to injury, and ultimately the decision he makes is to retire. And, we've seen it, Corey Crawford, Brent Seabrook, just a couple guys, they're kind of seeing their own age and, making a conscious decision what they think's best for themselves.
Seabrook owns the record for the most playoff goals by a defenseman in a Blackhawks history with 20. And, since Seabrook has retired, it seems like that core there for the Blackhawks is going to fall like dominoes. Next, it's probably going to be Duncan Keith. And, we just got to enjoy whoever. Maybe it'll be Jonathan Toews, because he's out with health injury. He's out with a health injury right now. So, we just got to hope that, we see this Blackhawks core play for one last time before they do go out into retirement.
No, exactly. A team that caused me so much, trauma throughout the 2010s. It's never fun to see a team win the cup 3 times, give someone else a chance. But I do want to be able to see Jonathan Toews step out on the ice and play another game for the Blackhawks 100%.
And I think that will be one of the last dynasties we'll see. I think teams, there's more parity in the league. It's a lot more even balanced than it was in the early 2010s. And I think the Blackhawks are going to be the last sort of dynasty we'll see. And that depends on how you look at dynasty. I think 3 cups in 6 years, kind of fits the term dynasty, in my opinion. But I think that, we won't see teams dominate. I think, the cup's going to be flipping and flopping between, all the 31, soon to be 32 teams in the future.
Yeah. A modern day dynasty, 3 cups in 6 years. It's not 4 straight like the Oilers and Islanders. Oilers never won 4 straight, but, the Islanders did win 4 straight, and that was their kind of dynasty. But it just goes to show how tough it is to win a cup. Even the best of teams like the Blackhawks, could only do 3 and 6.
The Calgary Flames fired Jeff Ward and hired Daryl Sutter, who is a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, but his coaching mindset is very defensive. That's what I read from Twitter, and, I'll take that opinion and, I'll kind of use it because as a East Coast fan here, I'd never really watched the Kings really, intently. I know that Daryl Sutter is such a successful coach. This is his second tenure with the Calgary Flames there, but apparently during his first tenure, he was part GM. So he was like part coach, part GM. And I think the GM stuff is really bad. So push that to the side because, that's irrelevant. And, I think this is a good move for Calgary. And I didn't think that Sutter would be back behind the bench, I guess, so soon.
Yeah, no, he got fired by LA a couple of years ago. And he's just a very successful coach. I think, you look at Quenneville going to Florida. It's just like these very, well-respected Hall of Fame coaches, making a couple of pit stops before, they eventually retire. And it'll be interesting to see what Sutter's able to do with this, sort of struggling Flames team.
Jeff Ward had a 35-26-5 record with the Calgary Flames. And to be honest, I didn't really see Jeff Ward as the winning coach, as the coach that's going to be remembered for leading his team to a Stanley Cup. I never really saw that. I think the Flames and Ward, they kind of lost their identity there for a couple games this season. So I think this is a good decision by Brad Treliving.
No, I agree.
And, another point to make is, is the Ottawa Senators, are they coach killers? They've kind of ruined two franchises there, both in Montreal and Calgary. So I think that's kind of a funny point to bring up.
Yeah, the Canucks could be next, but I think Travis Green will stay there.
Taylor Hall is willing to sign a mid-range extension with the Buffalo Sabres in the offseason. And, he's having a brutal year statistical wise, but, maybe if I were Taylor Hall, it would be good to kind of get, traded at the deadline, try and win a cup. And then if you're so interested in Buffalo, sign with them in the offseason.
Yeah, maybe they could move him for some assets at the deadline. However, I think just for Buffalo, he is a piece that they kind of not build around, but, he's just, something to have. I think he, despite having a bad season, is a top 6 forward in the league. And, you look at the Skinner contract, and it's a bad contract, but it's a result of Skinner having an incredible contract year and then paying him for what he was able to provide. So hopefully now that Hall is having, a bit of a struggling year when his contract is up, they can get him at maybe a bit of a discount for what Taylor Hall is going to bring to the table.
Alexia Lafreniere is starting to heat up. Currently in his last 5 games, he has 4 points in his last 5 games. So, it's good for the kid. He's starting to get that confidence back up again. And, it's good to see results from a first overall pick.
Exactly. Last season, Capo Caco just kind of had a tough stretch for the whole year. And Lafreniere was having that to begin. However, now he started to pick things up. So it's just nice to see.
Tom Wilson, gave a direct headshot to Brandon Carlo, and he was awarded with a 7-game suspension. And I think this is fair to say. However, to respect both sides, I think, Wilson hit the head of Carlo, but there's actually a different angle where it shows that, Wilson is trying to finish through the body of Brandon Carlo there. But I think it was a headshot, and I'm okay with the suspension.
Yeah, I'm fine with it just because, Tom Wilson, a repeat offender, just kind of, what he brings to the table. It's not, out of the blue to, think that he had bad intentions going in to make that hit. And it's just, kind of a message to the league. And I think 7 games is definitely fair.
But what's weird about it is that he was assessed for boarding. He wasn't even assessed for illegal check to the head, which is, kind of odd in my opinion, since, I think that it was an illegal hit to the head. So, I think the NHL also has to kind of change the rule there. Not only that, but in the eyes of the league, in the eyes of the rule there, Tom Wilson is not considered a repeat offender because so much time has passed from his last suspension. So, there's so much gray area in a league where they're trying to eliminate hits like that. And hopefully the 7 games will be a definite change to that.
Yeah. And 7 games in a 56-game season as well is, more than it would be, in an 82-game season. So I think, the suspension is fair.
I just want to appreciate the Chicago Blackhawks and what they've accomplished. They're definitely a wagon for sure. They have done this without Kirby Dach, their, top 3 pick. They've done this without Jonathan Taves. And the list of injuries goes on, but those are 2 notable ones. Patrick Kane is making a solid case for MVP this season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think if the Blackhawks can get into the playoffs, I think Kane is definitely one of the top guys for the Hart, just because, what he's been able to do. And, the skill has always been there. That's been known with Patrick Kane. However, it's kind of the leadership mentality that he's had to take on now that, Taves, is no longer playing with the Blackhawks at the moment. So I think it's just been a great season for Kane, and I hope he continues it.
John Tortorella wants a rule in place where during a timeout, the arena can't play music, and he cites that he has to yell to his players on what the play is, what he wants to draw up. And I'm actually fine with this because I know at Hayden games, we would play music and then the coaches would tell us to tone it down a bit just so they can give instruction. And I think there's no really wrong side to this. I'm actually in favor of this rule change.
No, exactly. I think I'm on Torts' side. However, I don't think the music has any impact. I think he's going to be yelling at his players regardless of, how much sound is in the arena.
He does seem like the coach to always yell at his players.
Yeah, he's got to get his message across somehow.
Gregory Denisenko, one of the young players for that Florida team, made his NHL debut on Saturday. And, I thought that we're finally getting a glimpse of who this Denisenko guy is, because I'm pretty sure he was passed up in the draft because of his KHL contract. I could be wrong, though. I'm not too sure on that, but nonetheless, it's great to see another rookie make his NHL debut during the season.
Yeah, like you say with the talent-wise, he was one of the top players in his draft, but ended up going first round still, but, maybe just a little bit of a Russian issue that, allowed him to go to the Panthers. And I think he's a solid player, and hopefully he can grow into a nice top six piece for this Panthers team.
DeBoer said during a presser on Saturday that the hotel Vegas was staying at on Friday night actually declared bankruptcy. So that's a very odd story to tell the media. And he said that the Golden Knights had to change hotels after their pregame meal on Saturday morning. So it's very that's such a very odd circumstance, because in the protocols it says that the teams can only book one hotel. So technically you could argue that Vegas broke the protocols, but they had to anyway because of how the hotel they were staying at declared bankruptcy.
Yeah, it would have been tough if they got sent into a 14-day quarantine because of switching their hotels. All respects to that hotel. Hopefully they can somehow get themselves back on their feet after declaring bankruptcy. Not too familiar, but maybe. I'm not sure if was it in Vegas? Was it in Las Vegas?
It was in San Jose.
In San Jose. Okay. So yeah, I mean, a hotel in Vegas going bankrupt, I don't
very
think
ironic.
Yeah, no, exactly. Just, such an incredible city.
And this made me think on Saturday here that, the Islanders in Washington, are they really legit? Because they're actually 10-0-1 versus the Sabres. And a lot of people made the point to me in the East Coast here that Montreal, they're not legit because they haven't won against Toronto. They have a losing streak against Ottawa. They, the majority of their games they won against Vancouver. Well, I mean, I can make the same argument for the Islanders and, the Capitals. However, that East Division seems really tough because you have to go up against the Penguins. Okay, so you got Crosby and Malkin to go through. And even, Tristan Jarry, who's making a really good, having a really good season this year. Okay, so then now you have to go through Philadelphia. All right, so that's Giroux, Konechny, Couturier, Voracek, and as well as Carter Hart. So, it's a topic that really made me think, like, how elevated, how much weighting do these teams have when they're playing a bottom feeder team like the Sabres and they're doing really well against?
Yeah, it's just been, beneficial because of the schedule that they've had so far. But I do think, both of those teams respectively are solid teams. Yeah, the Capitals especially, just so much talent and what they've been able to do this season with everything that's happened with, goaltending situation and COVID. But, the Islanders as well, they've looked amazing against Buffalo. Even though it is Buffalo, they've just been able to, make the Sabres, their little pet kind of thing. Sabres aren't able to get anything against them.
And, I guess this brings up the record here. I don't have it written down, but I saw a tweet yesterday saying that the Devils are 3-0-1, I believe, against the Bruins. So it seems like, these bottom feeder teams are making like Boston and Washington play as hard as possible against them, kind of like what Ottawa is doing in the North Division.
Yeah, like last year, Montreal lost 4 games to the Detroit Red Wings. It's just kind of like it's just kind of like it's a lot about the mindset. When you're going into play against the Tampa Bay team, you're going to have to play your best game to win. However, when you're playing against, a Buffalo or an Ottawa, there's a little bit of a different mindset, and sometimes it can get out of hand, and, teams can, under-prepare because they are an NHL team.
Sorry.
The Devils, like you said, you mentioned against the Bruins, 3-0-1, really good.
U.S. players are getting vaccinated, and the vaccination plan for the United States has accelerated more so than the NHL had thought. So it's good to see that players playing on American teams are getting the vaccine for COVID-19, and who knows how much different it will be come June or come the playoffs. I'm excited to see. Maybe we'll see increase in fan capacity for some arenas.
Yeah, exactly. With the Bills, they didn't have fans in the regular season, but, they were granted from New York to get fans for the playoffs. And it did somewhat make an impact, against the Ravens. They were able to pick up that win. Apparently the crowd was too loud for the Ravens center. But just, fans in general, you just want to have them back in the arena, just because they're such a part of the game.
Exactly. And, I think there really is a missing element to not having fans in the stands. And I think the players really do feel, the absence of fans, and, the injected crowd noise really doesn't make up for the loss of it.
Yeah, no, the crowd noise is more for the fans at home to just kind of have, a little bit of an element of, still watching the game. But, just the physical fans, just, 19,000 people in an arena, you can't beat it.
So I kind of ripped on Anaheim earlier in this episode, and I guess I should say that, Anaheim is getting solid goaltending with Gibson and Miller. I thought Miller played phenomenal on Saturday, or whatever the Ducks played Colorado, and they just can't put the puck in the back of the net. That's been one of the struggles for the Ducks this season, and that's why they kind of promoted Zegras, is to hopefully increase the goal score.
Yeah, they promoted him and then they scratched him. It was kind of odd. Just, the offense hasn't been able to get rolling. But, against the Avalanche, it wasn't Grubauer in net. It was Miska. But, they were able to generate 5 goals, which is, an anomaly for this Anaheim Ducks team. So hopefully they're able to build off of it and give, Gibson and Miller a little bit more of a break, because they've been solid all year.
Yeah, I mean, the Ducks are second last in the league, averaging 2.16 goals for per game. And, I think that contributes to just the lack of goal scoring they have. And it sucks to see because, Gibson and Miller, or, Gibson is a star. He's locked up for the next 6 or 7 years in that Anaheim Ducks team. And hopefully they do get this goal scoring issue figured out.
Yeah, hopefully at some point in that contract, John Gibson is playing, crucial playoff games for the Ducks. They made a run in 2017. They were in their conference finals against Nashville. But just since then, things have seemed to, go down for the Anaheim Ducks.
You kind of expected this. After going pointless in 3 straight games, McDavid posted a 3-point night in the Battle of Alberta, which actually featured 2 fights. I thought that was kind of old school. And, it was Lucic versus Nurse, and the real deal Neal versus, Makachuk. And I never knew Neal as a fighter. That's kind of an odd one for me to see, for sure. But this is McDavid's 6th game this season with 3+ points. So it's good to see him get back on the score sheet after having a frustrating series against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I'm sure it was super frustrating for McDavid, and it's nice for him to get back on track. We're playing Ottawa. We're recording this on Monday, so the Oilers are playing Ottawa tonight. And by the time that this episode comes out, McDavid might have had a crazy night. But I think, getting the confidence back against Calgary is huge. And like you mentioned with the 2 fights and the bit of old school game, the Oilers Flames, they're always going to put on a show, no matter if it's a blowout or a close game. It's just always something to tune into.
Marc-Andre Fleury recorded his 65th career shutout. He passes Henrik Lundqvist, who had 64 for sole possession of 16th all-time. And he actually has the most shutouts all time among active goalies. So I thought that was a kind of a neat stat to throw in there. And, it's really kind of like the icing on the cake for such a great season for Fleury.
Yeah, it just goes to show there is a risk when you take a goalie number 1 overall. You can get a Rick DiPietro like the Islanders did, or, Marc-Andre Fleury went first overall in 2003, and he's just, lived up to every expectation and been a Hall of Famer, no doubt.
On Sunday, Keith Yandle reached his 1,000th career game against none other than the Arizona Coyotes. Or no, that could be wrong. Anyway, I thought that Keith Yandle, he's been a mainstay in the NHL. He's actually third all time in the Ironman streak with 890 consecutive games.
Yeah, he's just been an Ironman. And, this season, early in the season, there was rumors maybe he gets traded or scratched, but it's nice to have been able, that he's, kind of got his spot back in the lineup and he's able to, make an impact for the Panthers. That
game was against Carolina, so my mistake. I must have gotten Arizona as I was typing it down because Keith Yandle played for the Coyotes for so long. And, I just thought that it's just like, it's great to see these players accomplish this, but it sucks to have it in a pandemic-ridden season because, the family can't even come out and celebrate with him.
Yeah, exactly. An 1,000th game is just such a big thing around the league. To be able to play 1,000 games is crazy. And, it's a big, pregame celebration. The silver stick, I believe, is, what they receive. And it was just unfortunate he wasn't able to get, the true experience.
One line combination that I think is really working out well, and this is for the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Jared McCann, Evgeny Gino Malkin, and Kasperi Kapanen line has 16 points combined over the last 5 games. Mm-hmm. And, this is a great second line. They have great chemistry together, and it's a great line to throw out after Crosby's line. And, the Penguins, I think, are realizing that they don't have to rely on Sid and Gino playing together since they have this depth scoring coming.
No, exactly. And it's huge for the Penguins. Crosby, even if he doesn't get a point every game, he's going to, likely be the best player on the ice when his line is out there. So there's just so much of an impact that he brings. And it's really nice when the second line is able, like you said, 16 points combined in 5 games. That's just a lot of offense being generated and giving them the best chance, to win games.
Time for Pags' predictions. I went 5-3 last week. So this week, I'm going to bet on the Penguins beating the Rangers, the Bruins over the Islanders, the Flyers over the Sabres, the Capitals over the Devils, the Hurricanes over the Predators, Panthers over the Blue Jackets, the Jets over the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Lightning over the Red Wings, and the Blackhawks over the Dallas Stars.
So, I went 7-1 last week. I mentioned before we started recording. Unfortunately, I picked the Sabres last week, so I could have gone 8-0, but that was, unfortunately stopped. This week, I'll go with a bit of an upset. I'll say the Rangers over the Penguins. They've been playing pretty well lately, and although the Penguins have been playing as well, I'm just getting a weird feeling, the Rangers are going to win that one. I'll go with the Leafs over the Jets. I think they do rebound, from their little bit of a, stink against the Canucks. I'll go with the Islanders over the Bruins. I'll go with the Panthers over the Blue Jackets. I'll go with the Stars over the Blackhawks. I'll go with the Hurricanes over the Predators. Capitals over Devils. Lightning over Red Wings. And, let's keep it going. I'll go with the Sabres over the Flyers in that one.
They got to end this losing streak at some point, right?
Yeah, hopefully. And, that can put me ahead of you if I get that one and you don't.
Well, I'd like to thank again Nolan Thode for joining me on another weekly edition of Down to the Wire.
Thanks for having me, Pags.